with my
Yeah,
voice,
no, that's fine.
if
That's
that's
fine.
cool, because I don't know about you guys, but
The
I
15 minutes is yours. If you want to sit up there and
okay,
dance,
great.
that's fine by me.
Great, great. Well, yeah, and also thank you guys very much for having me on. And I know it's probably been a little bit of a marathon for you too, so I appreciate your perseverance in all of this as well. So for Kylin and for me, we are very.
You're good. Keep going, I think. Oh no, we've lost your audio. What's going on?
Sorry, I got a little.
Oh no, you're back.
What happened?
I think we're good, are we?
Yeah, can you hear us, Dylan?
I think we can hear you fine, Dylan, yeah.
Wait, sorry guys. I think I've got that might be on my end. My apologies. Are we cool?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
we're
can hear
good.
you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, gosh, I thought I entered another dimension for a second there. So yeah, anyway, so for Kylin as well as me, we've really I've been wrapped up in solving fundamental problems in the blockchain space. I've been in space for quite some time. I guess all the way from really all the way from late 2011. And one of the fundamental problems that I think has been around for a while has been this, this Oracle problem, which has been connecting real world information to the blockchain. And if we have centralized sources for that information, obviously that's going to be a little bit antithetical to the whole enterprise of blockchain and of decentralization. So one of the great, I guess, the necessary condition from our point of view for solving the Oracle problem has been around for some time. And there have been quite a few people trying to solve it, some relatively effectively. We feel at Kylin that the sufficient conditions for solving this problem haven't really presented themselves until, in our opinion, until the advent of the Polkadot ecosystem, where the level of throughput necessary to start corralling and managing and coordinating data feeding and consumption infrastructure, including things like price feeding and price oracles, haven't really been around until now, or the ability to do that hasn't been possible until now because of the shared security evinced by the relay chain on Polkadot. So we see a real kind of 0 to 1 innovation in Polkadot as an ecosystem, as a non-sequential, sort of more parallel possibility of throughput. And we also see a reward mechanism that we feel aligns better with a data feeding infrastructure, or data economy. So for example, like on other chains, like for example, Ethereum, I think the reward system is all off, where you shouldn't have to pay for providing info. I think in fact you should get paid or get rewarded for providing info. So that's kind of like where our decision was at in terms of choosing Polkadot and Substrate as this broader meta infrastructure to build our own, infrastructure, our own parachain eventually. So we're we're definitely very bullish, on that thesis of a multi-chain world. And because of that, we feel that a real common element or nexus would be within Polkadot. So that's sort of like the overview of why we've chosen that. A lot of people confuse us as more of an oracle, specifically and narrowly, but I think for us we're much more than that. We're really more into the idea of a data market, building the infrastructure of data feeding and data consumption, validated data feeding, data consumption. And the use cases are really up to the imagination of the people building on our system. So yes, the low-hanging fruit for us will be things like incorporating price feeding data for the DeFi world, but more recently, for example, I've been involved in some discussions and been quoted in some articles about election results, for example, I think validated data on chain of many different types and stripes is going to be pretty interesting. So for example, I think a really interesting thing that Gavin talked about this at their Decoded event the other day, which is how do we know, how could we, for example, validate the election results in the US? You know, we see potential, for example, for Kylin Network to help do that, where we could incorporate thousands of local election result APIs, feed them into our system, and then have arbitration and Oracle nodes both validating that. So yeah, for Kylin, we are definitely a decentralized cross-chain data economy for what we perceive to be kind of a blockchain world that's coming to the fore. And that's really our pitch. We've been very fortunate in the level of support that we've received. We've been very fortunate in our timing. We've been very fortunate in the validity we feel of our thesis and the convergence of, you know, the hotness of, I guess, the narrative of Oracle certainly, but also the hotness, I guess, of Polkadot and everything like that. So we've been very fortunate in all those respects, but we are very much looking ahead and into the future. And you know, for us, the Oracle thing is sort of a first step on a much bigger vision toward data consumption, data feeding, and overall data marketplace that's decentralized. And that's it, really.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Dylan. So I think just for kind of you know, some for the viewers' perspective, I've been kind of talking back and forth with Dylan for some time. One of the things we're really keen on doing, obviously, is you know, working with projects as early as possible. XBTC is a good example of that, where, you know, we incubated and helped them with a number of other strategic partners. And you know, we've been thinking about this matter ourselves over the last couple of days, and it's been a topic of conversation around, you know, how the ecosystem's kind of really developing itself. Polkadot for us is definitely a technology platform that we've had discussions around. So I was quite keen to get you on, Dylan, to get a sense from you. You know, I think you've kind of eloquently quite well put that, you know, there's a lot of technology advantages and benefits from looking outside of just the typical, you know, ERC20.
Yeah, I think everyone's looking for their own integration path, and it's all relevant to their launch time. And I'm sure when one becomes more popular than the other, they'll be forced to switch. Right now, it seems that the big leaders that people want to go between are Matic and then Polkadot. But for me, it's like chess versus checkers. You know, one's the clear future, and the other one's you know, kind of sticking where it's at. But they all provide their own value, and it's all relative to the project themselves. Yeah, take it over, David. I'm going to respond to the production guys.
Yeah. So
please.
Go ahead, Dylan. No, please respond.
No, yeah, no. I guess, like, from my perspective, like, I don't mind being, like, frank here on this. So I was very much of an Ethereum guy, right? For a very, very long time, and I'm still an Ethereum guy in many ways. I guess there's a temptation to kind of fall into maximalism and or this idea of chain dominance, and I think that that's something that to some extent we have to try to get out of a little bit, and that's actually the reason why I like Polkadot, because Polkadot, you know, it seems like it's more of like a nexus than anything. In some ways, you could argue Polkadot, the chain like this as a meta protocol, if you will, may not even be important in the sense from a speculative sense or anything like that. And I think it's going to be very important in connecting all these different complementary chains, right? So I accept the thesis of a multi-chain world, right? I accept that basic thesis that there's going to be chains that are good for this, chains that are good for that, et cetera, et cetera. So I felt the need, and our team felt the need, that if we're going to be in any place, we may as well be in a place where all the connections are getting made. So
Yeah.
bridge chaining, parachains, etc., all of this stuff, I think is going to be coming to the fore over the next year, 2 years. But it doesn't mean that there's going to be some extreme erosion or excoriation of the premises and the use cases and the value that's been delivered by these massive networks that have been built in Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. I think that they're going to provide very valuable ground to build on and to cover it in the years to come. And I very much see that this is going to be a multi-chain world that's going to have all these different sort of applications. That's my point of view.
No, well
Awesome.
said. I think interoperability is the key here. So yeah, thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
Yeah.
you got a question? Yeah.
We are very interested in the Oracle. We are the investor of NAS, and we totally missed the API 3. But to be honest, we are really interested in Oracles. But in the data feed, do you really think Polkadot need his in the Polkadot ecosystem it needs an Oracle, or how do you think if the Chainlink migrate to Polkadot? I would see it will definitely happen in the future.
Yeah, that's a great question. So my point of view on this is, and by the way, I'm a big fan of API 3. So and you may have a sense that we have sort of like a similar kind of premise in how we're approaching the problem. But yeah, my perspective on this is that Polkadot kind of obviated a lot of Oracle functionality through the development of off-chain workers in the Substrate 2.0 upgrade. So they basically defaulted for anybody building on Polkadot to be able to call an API function. So from our point of view, it almost like we were almost like, oh geez, well does this mean that being having this Oracle narrative on Polkadot kind of obviates us too? And our answer was actually we decided that no, in fact, that this was a strength, and we were going to work with the Web3 Foundation to extend the capabilities of off-chain workers, and to extend and by virtue of that, to extend the capability of people being able to utilize off-chain workers in Substrate 2.0 and utilize oracles and have the off-chain worker itself have a validation process associated with it. So you're not just calling an API like a price feed from CoinMarketCap. That price feed itself is going to be validated in an overall system. Now, Chainlink, in terms of their integration with Polkadot, we have found so far that that they're not using as far as I know, they're not using off-chain worker palettes. They're coming from their own native, kind of their own native infrastructure, if you were, scaffolding over to Polkadot. We feel we've got a little bit more of a decentralized and granular solution to the validation process and the slashing process, and that's our point of view.
Okay.
But no, yeah, I mean you're right.
Yeah,
Many projects can come over from an Oracle perspective to.
Let me step
Polkadot.
in here real quick. We're
Yep,
gonna have we're gonna have a panel discussion after Royale does their pitch in AMA. Actually, what we'll do, Royale, is that we'll do the pitch section, the presentation, and the introductions and stuff, and then we'll head right into the panel, because I think that this panel is very robust. I think Kylin and the two mentors from TDeFi and the people that you brought, and Mark, and obviously the rest of the pitches with Jim and Adrian, etc. I think that there's going to be a very robust. This could be one of the best panels that we've had in the last 3 days, because there's a lot of smart minds here, a lot of big projects, a lot of Polkadot integration going on, and some of the biggest players in the space with Hartej and Lavendier. So let's switch over production team to the Royale YouTube.